Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ed Herrelko, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer here at the International Mission Board. We are here this afternoon at the Cooperative Program stage, and we're going to talk about missionary presence. And with me today, Dr. Paul Chitwood, IMB President, John Brady, IMB Vice President for Global Engagement, and Henry Phan, longtime IMB missionary and now part of the stateside team with globalization. Also, for those of you in the audience, we are handing out 3 blankets today. So make sure you grab a raffle ticket, and at the end of the session, we will be giving out a blanket. But first question to you, Dr. Chitwood. We rolled out a new brand yesterday, and the new brand is very heavy on missionary presence. Why is that important for the IMB and for Southern Baptists?
Well, thank you, Ed. When we think about the work of the International Mission Board, obviously over a course of 177 years with a ministry that extends literally to the ends of the earth, we do a lot of different things. We're known for a lot of different things. So we've been working really hard at the IMB, particularly with your team, Ed, and your leadership, and others, our field missionaries around the world, to distill in the simplest of terms who we are as an organization and what we do as an organization. And above everything else, and obviously there's a lot of moving parts at the IMB and a lot of wonderful ministries that Southern Baptists are extending to the very ends of the earth through the IMB. But first and foremost, we are about sending missionaries from the local church, as they're sent out from the local church through the IMB, and essentially a sustained missionary presence among the lost around the world. In that, for 177 years, Southern Baptists have been addressing the world's greatest problem. So what is the world's greatest problem? The world's greatest problem is lostness. That is the greatest problem because it is the one eternal problem that is universal. Every human being who ever lived, because of the fall, because of we are the seed of Adam, and the curse that was experienced in the garden is extended to the offspring of Adam, but also because we have all sinned, we are spiritually lost and have no way to save ourselves. This is the greatest problem in the world. It's true of every person, everywhere, in all of time. But there is a solution to that problem, and that solution is the gospel. It's the gospel that we've believed. It's the gospel that Southern Baptists have preached faithfully for 177 years. It's the gospel that our missionaries go to declare to the lost around the world. So the greatest problem is lostness. The solution is the gospel. How does the gospel get to those who have yet to hear it? Well, that's where the missionary presence comes in, a sustained missionary presence, sending those who will share the gospel to those who have not heard it is what the IMB is about, and that's what this new brand is about. Even the brand icon, that map pin indicates we're working around the world. We're taking the gospel to different places around the world where there is now a witness because Southern Baptists, in their generosity, have given and they have sent to the very ends of the earth those who go to share the gospel.
You know, it's 2022, and some things have not changed, one of which is missionary presence, getting people to other people to take the gospel and bring it where there is no gospel. John Brady, you've lived and worked around the world. You've grown up as a missionary kid, and now you're leading our work in some very hard-to-reach places as well. And you've told me before about an incredible story with Henry here. Yeah. And I would love for you to tell our audience a little bit before Henry tells us more. Tell us that story about Henry.
Well, I remember when I first met Henry. We were in Southeast Asia, and we were having a conversation, and I was taken over and introduced to Henry. And when I was introduced to Henry, I heard from the person introducing me Henry's story. Because Henry has grown up in a country, got thrown out of a country, but then he found a way to those people who were working. They were working in factories in another country, and they were busy 14 hours a day. But Henry never let that stop him. In the middle of the night, going into places where the gospel had never been, finding a way to get right up close to them at night and sharing the gospel. And when he went in there, and his presence and his message to those folks radically changed lives. And as those lives got changed, Henry was able to help them be prepared to go back to the country that they were both from and carry the gospel where the government and other people were trying to suppress the gospel. And Henry not only carried the gospel to the lost, but he got the lost to carry the gospel to other folks in another place.
And Henry, we were talking backstage that there was a time you had to physically carry a light to get the spiritual light to people. So in your 20 years plus as a missionary, you've served in at least 5 different locations. You've experienced a lot. Tell us a little bit about why you being physically present with people and meeting them where they're at was so crucial to your ministry.
Okay, Ed. I was serving in a country where many of the migrant workers working in construction. So they get off around 10, 11, so I have to be there around midnight. And it's dark, so I literally have to have a flashlight for me to walk in this construction area because a lot of sharp objects, broken nails, rusty nails. So at one point, my wife, she said, honey, buy yourself a steel boot shoes, because she was really care for me. And so literally I have to shine the flashlight in the dark into my path so I can avoid those sharp objects to walk into these containers and sheds area where the construction workers live in and work in. And they really appreciate someone who's outside coming in and really seek them out, share with them, talk with them, and really care about them. So that's where I think the gospel really make the advancement when we are physically there, share face to face and in person.
So they recognized you were putting an effort into coming and visiting. You were doing this regularly with them. So you established relationships, you established trust, but it was not on a normal 9 to 5 schedule. Tell us a little bit more about how you guys would make a little campfire and study the word together. You said out of a Coca-Cola can.
Okay. Because these construction workers, in the daytime, they have all these generators to work with electricity produced there. But at night, all these generators are locked up because the bosses don't want them to use, because of the expense. So they don't have any electricity or running water. So what they do is, out of resourcefulness, they would take empty cans of Coke and then put some fuel liquid in there and then just tear off a piece of rag and then light up. And then we have several of these homemade lights so we can study the Bible together, sing songs together. That's how we will survive in those areas. And those are meaningful moments when people accept the Lord, bow their head and kneel down on the floor with all the nails around and all these things with the candle lit type, can Coke, type. So that was wonderful.
I appreciate you sharing that because I know a lot of our audiences don't always understand what missions looks like and what it means to be a missionary, what it means to make yourself physically present and available. So thank you for that. John, one last question for you. Why is physical missionary presence so crucial to our work? I mean, we live in the digital age and we can still use digital tools, but why is the physical presence important?
Well, of course, you are already, and all of you already know that in Romans chapter 10, it talks about people carrying the gospel to other people. That's why beautiful feet get to people with the gospel. It is that presence between two people where the Lord God gives us the opportunity to share our testimony, to share the gospel from His Word. And then in an amazing way, when we're together with lost people and we're sharing, the Holy Spirit just comes down and works His work and bears the fruit of salvation. We have, roughly, probably close to 4 billion people that need to have their lives interrupted with the gospel. They need to have somebody who will come and change the trend that says, I'm going to be born, I'm going to live, and I'm going to die, and I'm never going to meet those people who come with beautiful feet to bear the good news of salvation. And so around the world, God's called his people to leave the comfort zones, to go out into the construction sites or into the factories in the night or wherever people are who are lost, and engage them with their own changed life, and also give them the good news that promises to move them from perishing to life eternal.
Thank you, John. Dr. Chitwood, one of the things we've talked about a lot is how Southern Baptists are at their best when they cooperate together. And the IMB is a lot of times how they cooperate to do missions. I'd like you to maybe share a little bit about, especially from your pastoral background, really why it's important for more and more churches to become involved in our work so that together we can get the gospel to the lost, even when situations are difficult.
Well, the cliche, we can always do more together, is more than a cliche. It's true. We can always do more together. And that's especially true when it comes to churches working together. So 177 years ago, Southern Baptists came together as a group of churches committed to working together to get the gospel to North America and to the ends of the earth. Then, almost 100 years ago now, in 1925, the cooperative program was adopted as our program for funding mission work in North America and to the ends of the earth. It was interesting, the many intersections in my own personal life when it comes to the cooperative program and Southern Baptists working together. The cooperative program was modeled after a giving plan that originated at a church in Western Kentucky, First Baptist Church of Murray, Kentucky. The pastor there tried a giving plan for his church. Instead of having missionaries come in every Sunday and ask for money, he said, listen, if you want to give to mission work, put your money in the box as you leave the church. And that box plan of funding mission work in his church and for his church was so popular with the church, and people began to give more to missions than they were giving regularly before that. He began to promote it across the state of Kentucky. The Kentucky Baptist Convention then eventually adopted as their program. They adopted at an annual meeting at the First Baptist Church of Jellicoe, Tennessee. Interesting that that's not in Kentucky, even though the Kentucky Baptist Convention had its annual meeting there. It's actually literally just a few yards across the Tennessee line from Kentucky. That church, you could stand in the front yard of that church and throw a rock into Kentucky, literally. But the annual meeting took place for Kentucky Baptists there. That's where they adopted this unified giving plan. That's my home church. That's the church where I was baptized, ordained into the ministry, where Michelle and I were married, and where I was sent out, essentially. That program was then later became the model for the cooperative program in 1925 that now funds and has funded mission work around the world and in North America ever since then. We crossed a huge milestone last year with $20 billion that has been given through the cooperative program since 1925. I had the privilege, as you mentioned, as a local church pastor. I pastored for 18 years. I had the privilege of pastoring churches that, even before I showed up, were very committed to giving through the cooperative program. In fact, if you did an average of those churches that I served as pastor of in Kentucky, we gave 18% on average of undesignated offerings through the cooperative program. So this is something that has marked my life. It's something that I believe in. I've benefited from in my theological education, even back to going to a Baptist college. A part of my education was offset by the cooperative program. I've benefited as an employee of the Kentucky Baptist Convention and now the International Mission Board, and my salary being provided for through the cooperative program. But it's not nearly as important as what the cooperative program has done among the lost. There are 157,690 people who die lost every single day around the world. Many of them die lost, of that 157,690 in North America. Most of them die lost overseas among the nations. The cooperative program, churches working together, I believe, is the best funding model to get the gospel to every person in North America and to get the gospel to the ends of the earth. So it's all about cooperation. It's about generosity. It's about us working together for the sake of the 157,000, the 690 who die lost every single day. This is how Southern Baptists are responding and how Southern Baptists are fueling missions.
Thank you for that. And later this afternoon, we're going to have a session that talks about sending again. And something you've said now for a couple years is that the IMB is sending again. We have a need for anybody listening, anybody here. We have a need for more people to take the gospel to the lost. More people that can do what Brother Henry here has done and take the gospel into dark places, physically dark and spiritually dark. So join us this afternoon for our final session where we talk a little bit about the different ways that the IMB can help your churches send people with the gospel. And we're going to conclude with a drawing for our blankets. So if everybody has had their tickets, all right. So it is time to see who the big winners are. I feel like a bingo caller, but here's the first number, 484091. If you have it, raise your hand, 484091. Okay, moving on, 484106. 484106. 484090. 484099. Anyone? Anyone? You handed these out, right? 484050. All righty. Well, the first three people that can come up to Julie McGowan are going to get blankets. So, bum rush her, and we had one hand back there. Thank you all very much.